All right, everybody. Sorry, let me just pull up my slides really quick. Still a little new to this whole thing. Okay, so our webinar today is on stories, the stories that we tell ourselves. Your life is your story. Well, it's more a compilation of your stories. And if you want to change your life or the things in it, first of all, you must change the story that you tell yourself. Many of us don't realize that we tell ourselves stories, but because they're so subconscious. But many of our stories root back from when we were young. If we didn't make the team and we got cut, our story could be maybe I'm not good enough. If your mom told you to be quiet, you're too loud. Maybe you just don't have the confidence to speak up in public because you're reliving that same story over and over again. So this was brought to my attention, this whole concept, probably like 6 or 7 years ago when I attended my first Anthony Robbins seminar. And ever since then, it's really changed my life. I'm really passionate about this. And I think once you understand this, you can really make great changes. So let's get started. So what is your story? I mean, all of us have a lot of stories, but what is your main driving story? I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm too fat. I'm too busy. Oh, I forgot to finish that one. No one likes me. No one will love me. I'm not pretty enough. People make fun of me. I don't have enough money. I'm depressed. All these are very, very common stories. I'll give you a little story on Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was adopted. And if you read his book, he goes into this a little bit, that he had two choices. He could have chosen the story that he wasn't good enough for his biological parents, that they gave him away, they gave up on him, or he could have chose, which he did, choose the story that his adopted family chose him. He was chosen. And because of him choosing the second story, that he was chosen, that there was someone out there who wanted specifically him, he lived his life in a completely different manner than he would have if he would have believed that he wasn't good enough. So I just think it's really awesome that that we have the power to choose our story. Like for me, when I was had my eating disorder and was struggling with anorexia and overexercise, the story that I lived by and that I believed day in and day out was, if I drank alcohol, I would get fat. If I stayed up late or went out and was social, I would end up drinking, which in turn would lead to me not having the motivation to wake up in the morning and go to the gym. Or if I drank, I wouldn't be aware of my food choices. So therefore, I lived a very regimented life due to that limiting story. Obviously now, things have changed. Times are different. I love myself some wine. But back then, that story controlled my life. Let's move on. So what is keeping you in this story? Fear of failure, fear of success, not being good enough, not being accepted, being judged, letting people down. Usually the one thing that's holding you in a story is fear. And it can be fear of, a lot of people don't realize it, but they're afraid of success. They're afraid of what people would think of them if they become successful. They're afraid of, people who want everyone to like them are afraid of succeeding. They're afraid of, they don't want to rock the boat with any of their friends. It sounds kind of weird, but it's actually a very common fear. Let's see, what else? Oh, so in order to change our story, we have to create a new story. And it's not always easy. It can be very challenging, but in order to create a new story, oh, sorry, guys, don't know what happened. Sorry, in order to create a new story, it has to be empowering. Regardless of your circumstance, you have to choose to overcome and become the hero, not the victim. it's so easy to play the victim role of, it's because of my boss, it's because of the economy, it's because my parents don't love me, it's because whatever. It's easy to play the victim. It's harder to rise above and play the hero. But if you want to create a new story, you have to do that. I'm reading a book right now, and it's really, really awesome. It's called You Are a Badass. I highly recommend it. But she talks a little bit about this in here, and to know your negative stories, they tend to start with phrases like, I always, I never, I can't, I shouldn't, I suck at, I wish, I want, I don't have. Phrases like that, where you're always negatively talking about yourself and about what you think you can or cannot do, that is when you know you need to create a new story. Just like she says in this book, she said, Sad Sack Jane, the lawyer, says she should keep her miserable job at the prestigious firm because she'll never find one that she really likes that pays as well. Really, Jane? Is that why nobody on earth anywhere is doing a job that they love and they're making even more money than you make, Jane? The truth. Stories are not true. Stories are stories. The truth can be anything. The truth is what you make it. And so often we get caught up in living these stories that we forget the actual truth. And the truth is up to us. You need to find evidence that supports your new story. So if your new story is, I'm worthy and deserving of love, find evidence that supports that. Whether someone gives you a compliment on the street, whatever it may be, you need to find evidence and focus on that evidence of your new story. Take action. Try things you haven't tried before. You're not going to get anywhere by sitting around. The only way you're going to know is if you try. You're never going to fail. You're just going to view what you can do differently next time. Challenge yourself. Take a risk. Get out of your comfort zone. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. That is one of my favorite quotes, and I believe it to be true. Once you leave your comfort zone is when the magic happens. It's scary as all hell, but it's worth it. Talk to yourself in a positive manner. This one is huge. So often all we do is beat ourselves up. You have to love yourself. You have to treat yourself like you treat your best friend. You don't say the things that you say to yourself to your best friend or to your kids or to your husband. Talk to yourself like you talk to them. And last but not least, in order to create a new story, you have to stop identifying with the old story. It's like forgiving someone, but secretly hoping they slip on the ice. You don't have a new story at that point. You have to fully, in this example, fully forgive. And you have to fully stop identifying with that story. And yes, sometimes it's going to creep back into your head, just like I told you guys on Facebook this morning when I went out to breakfast this morning, that stupid story of that I didn't get my full workout in, that I shouldn't eat a big breakfast because it would ruin everything, or whatever that story is. You have to stop identifying it. When it creeps in, prove it wrong. Prove it wrong. Because the more practice you do to prove the old story wrong, the less it will creep into your mind. Oh, sorry, I don't know what happened to that little sentence, but change your story, change your life. Like I said, you got problems. Everybody has problems. Everybody. Economy is a big one. Everyone loves to blame the economy. But there is businesses that do the best when the economy is failing. So it's not an excuse. I get it. It's not ideal, but you have to think outside the box. Find a new story, find a new solution, and support a family. Two little resources, education, experience, finances. If you're going to look for an excuse, you're going to find an excuse. What's that quote? If you want to find a way, you will. If you want to find an excuse, you will too. That's not how it goes, but it's something like that. But it's so true. It's like you can always find an excuse. So choose to find the opposite. It's not your problems that keep you from creating what you want. It's a story you tell yourself about them that provides you with an excuse to stay in your comfort zone. Like I said, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So it's totally up to you to take the bull by the horns and change it. Okay, like I promised, this is my happiness equation. And it sounds kind of crazy, but I believe 100% this to be true. Your current life conditions, your story essentially, has to equal your blueprint in order for you to be happy. Your blueprint is the way you picture life. It's the way you want to live. It's what you had envisioned. It's if $500 is in your bank account and your goal is always to have 1,000, your current life conditions are not matching your blueprint. Therefore, you're going to be unhappy. And usually there's always an area of your life that you are happy with at any given time, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your finances, whether it's your relationships, whether it's, mentally, maybe you feel like you're growing in life, whatever. Usually there's always one aspect that you're happy with, but usually that's because it's matching your blueprint at that any given time. So I learned this from Tony Robbins as well. What he says is if you can't change your current life condition, like let's say, he gives an example of a professional basketball player whose blueprint was in order to be happy, he had to be playing professional basketball. Well, he had a stroke. So he was paralyzed from the stroke, couldn't play basketball. Therefore, his life conditions didn't match his blueprint. And because it was out of his realm to fix, he had to change his blueprint. And the only, if you're not growing and going towards your end goal, your life's mission, you're essentially dying. The only other thing that can make you feel just as fulfilled as growing is giving. So in this situation, he changed his blueprint to give back to the sport he loved, to give back to those who are in the same position as him. And by tweaking his blueprint, he found happiness again. So if you can't change your life condition, you have to change your blueprint. Okay, so another thing is progress. Like I just said, you're either growing or you're dying. You're never stagnant in life. You're either moving towards your goal or you're moving away from your goal. And it's really true. And it's funny because people think when they reach the end goal, they're going to be happy. No, let me tell you, you're going to be the happiest when you see progress, when you're growing and you can see the little steps along the way. That is when you're going to be happy because you see the progress, you see the growth. When you get to the end result, you might be momentarily happy, but then you're just there and there's nothing to work towards. So you're either growing or you're dying. I really think that's so important. And like I said, 2 things that will make you come alive in life is growing and giving. So like I said, if at the end of the day, you can't head towards that end goal for whatever limiting reason it is, physically or whatever it may be, rewrite your blueprint and make it not about you. Make it about giving back, make it about others, make it about doing something for the greater good, and you will definitely find happiness. This one's huge. I think it's so awesome. And if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you guys. So let me just see if I can get back to this. Okay, so anyways, I really appreciate that, all you guys. And I know this was kind of a weird time for the webinar. Darn, work just gets in the way of all that. But I don't even know how to get back to here we go. But if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. Like I said, this topic I'm super passionate about. I could go on for hours and hours and hours, but I have to save more for another time. Anyway, I adore you guys, and I'm always here to chat if you need anything. So, hope you're having a great day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.